Miami Dolphins sitting at 7-3. We've got some things to talk about. A little dip and dive, if you may. What is up, Finn fans? I have no idea what I just said on that intro, but I got some tidbits, some news, some information, some things, some that's, and all that crap to talk about with this Miami Dolphins deeper dive. They beat the Raiders. They are now sitting at 7-3. Back-to-back consecutive years of going 7-3 for the first time since 2000 to 2001. Hopefully we do not have a repeat of last year when we went 7-3, because kind of everything fell apart. Hopefully this is a different team. I already made a video about that. I think it was last Thursday. If you want to go watch it, different team, be different. But we got some things to talk about. First, we're going to go into the stats on the Dolphins on the season so far. Tua Tagovailoa, 2,934 yards, which is third in the NFL. CJ Stroud has like 10, 20 yards on him. And Howell has like 100 yards on him. But Howell has a bye week coming up, so we'll see if that sticks. But CJ Stroud's playing lights out. Good for that guy. 69.7 completion percentage is third best in the NFL. 21 touchdowns is second best in the NFL. 8 interceptions is tied for the fourth most in the NFL. 108.8 passer rating is number 2 in the NFL behind Brock Purdy. It seems like him and Brock Purdy are constantly fighting for that number 1 passer rating, and he has been sacked 15 times. I'm going to talk a little bit about the offensive line right now, but he's been sacked 15 times when the offensive line has had 7 different offensive line combinations, whether it's Lamb at tackle or Eichenberg at center or Eichenberg at left guard or Eichenberg at right guard or Cotton at left guard or Hunt at right guard or Isaiah Wynn at left guard, or so many different alterations. 7, and Tua still has only been sacked 15 times. Again, it's a good combination of Butch Berry and Tua Tagovailoa. Raheem Mostert, 691 yards, second in the NFL behind CMC, and 11 touchdowns is number 1 in the NFL. And then you have Tyreek Hill, 1,222 receiving yards is number 1 in the NFL, and 9 touchdowns, number 1 in the NFL. I'm going to give you information and update on Devon Achane. Got some quotes from Tua and all that stuff, so that'll be after I talk about the defense, because the defense is next. Jalen Ramsey, 3 games, 3 interceptions. Obviously, he did not have an interception against the Kansas City Chiefs, but he had 2 yesterday and 1 in his debut against the Patriots. That is tied for third in the NFL with 3 interceptions. Bradley Chubb, 6 sacks, which is tied for 11th in the NFL. Jalen Phillips, 5.5 sacks and the 1 interception. Christian Wilkins, 4.5 sacks. Sealer, 4 sacks. AVG, 4 sacks. I love the fact that Jalen Phillips now has 5.5 sacks. He had 2 sacks yesterday. So, again, if he stays at this pace, he's going to hit his double-digit sacks. He should have, him and Bradley Chubb together should have probably like 20 sacks with the both of them, plus, right? I could see Bradley Chubb getting to maybe like 12, 11 sacks, and I can see Phillips getting to like 10, 11 sacks, maybe more, which is fantastic. Again, having 2 double-digit sack players on our team. Healthy backfield. When the Miami Dolphins backfield is healthy, they have given up 4.9 yards per play, which is 6th best in the NFL. And if you remember last week, I gave you guys essentially the percentage. I think it was the Thursday video. I gave you guys a percentage of where the Dolphins are at, and we're going to look at that real quick. So if you see here, the Miami Dolphins right now are sitting at a 97% chance to make the playoffs, a 90% chance to win the division, a 15% chance to get a first-round bye, and an 11% chance to get to the Super Bowl. So after beating the Raiders, they went up from 94% to 97% to make the playoffs, an 88% to a 90% to win the division, a 11% to 15% to get the first overall seed, and a 9% to 11% to win the Super Bowl. So this win against the Raiders really boosted the Dolphins' percentage. And if, we'll go into it, if they continue to win, so say they win the next 5 games, chance of making the playoffs, 99%. Host a wild card game, 70%. So, we'd be sitting there at 11-3. And I'm going to do this as the season goes on and we get closer to playoff standings. I'm going to make videos where I specifically use this stuff and I pick each game, because you can see here the Bills-Eagles game will affect the way the Dolphins win the division. So if the Dolphins start losing games, like you can see there's like a faint color to these. Like these are completely grayed out because they don't matter, but there's like a faint color. We don't want the orange, we want the green. So like the Jets, the Steelers, and the Colts losing, and the Command, they helps us. But I will be talking about this in another video when we get closer towards the playoffs. Maybe in like a 3-4 weeks, I'll make a specific video for that. So those are your stats so far going into the Monday night game, week 11. So now we're going to talk about, or listen to, Tua Tagovailoa. Now, if you noticed, he was not a happy camper. Towards the end of the game, if you watched it and you saw him on the sideline, normally like in these types of games, like, with the Panthers game or the Giants game, or, these games where he throws an interception, but then he kind of makes up for it. So you see him on the sideline kind of just like smiling and talking. But this game, it got to him. And like I said to you guys, he had the stats are great. You look at that, and I hear that a lot, and I've gotten it a lot on Twitter, where I'm critical of the offense, right? I expect more from the offense that puts 70 up on one team, 42 up on another team, 31 up on another. You know what I'm saying? They are moving the ball and scoring points at home, and you put 20 up. Now, I'm not saying the Raiders are bad, but I expected more, especially when we were in situations to do more. And people are like, well, 300 plus passing yards, 400 total offense. How are you mad about this team? Never said I was mad, but I expect more. And I expect more because I see that the opportunities were missed because of the sloppiness. And Tua Tagovailoa himself, you noticed it. He was not happy with his performance today. He had a good day today in the office. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 fumble. I think he was like, I don't have the statistics off the top of my head. And then, hey, Doug, if you don't have the statistics off the top of your head, why don't you pull them up so you can give them to the people? Gosh darn it. 28 for 39, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 103 passer rating. That's not a bad day in the office. But that's Tua. It wants to be perfect. Tua wants to win and play hard. And this is what Tua had to say after the game. I'm going to on the field and then talk about him in the presser.
Tua, congratulations on the win today. It certainly wasn't perfect. You guys had some self-inflicted wounds, some key injuries. How are you still able to get this win in spite of all the adversity you faced?
Man, the defense carried us throughout that second half. We were able to lean on those guys. We weren't able to get things going. There's a lot of things that we know we have to go back and look at and try to figure out where we can get better offensively. But the defense willed their way, for us to win this game, and very proud of those guys. Very proud of those guys.
You talk about where you can get better offensively. When you look at this offensive line, the 7th different line combination in 10 weeks, what can you say about that unit and the way they're playing?
Well, it starts with me. I got to stop by turning the ball over. I got to make smarter decisions, better decisions with the ball. And when that starts happening, our offense can be better.
Next, you face the Jets in New York on Black Friday. What excites you most about that matchup?
Well, it's the first Black Friday game, so, that's always exciting to get a primetime game. But we know that they're going to be a good team. They're going to give us their best, so we'll go and prepare and, get ready for Friday.
And you could hear it. And I love the fact that she brought up the combination of the offensive line. Like, Liam Eichenberg did not have a good day today. He was getting manhandled left and right. The combination we have right now isn't great, but it's better than 2021. But you heard Tua. Again, that's just who Tua Tagovailoa is. He's not going to come out and be like, yeah, the offensive line needs to do better so we can get the run game going and blah, 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 this, and that. He was just like, it starts with me. I got to get the ball out quicker. I got to be quicker with my reads. I got to do this, this, and that. And I like that aspect of him, right? Like we always talk about when there's an interception or some type of turnover that's to his fault, the next drive we march down the field and score a touchdown because he always wants to make his corrections. And you saw that. He also, when he was in the locker room, he says, I have a standard for myself. I take pride in doing my job. It's not me being super hard. It's more so I know my expectations and standards of what I can do and I can be better. It's being real with yourself. I love it. And he was still in his shoulder pads and jersey. He did not take any of that off. Omar Kelly said that he noticed that he was still in his pads and, he was kind of beating himself up. But like he said, it's not being super hard. It's more he has an expectation of himself, right? If he wants to be in that so-called MVP conversation, the performance has to be there. And that's what his mindset is. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what his mindset is. And the fact that he was still in his pads and the fact that he was still, doing that and he was talking to people. And obviously he wasn't talking to McDaniel because McDaniel did his presser like Omar said. Very interesting to me, but I also like the accountability. You're never going to hear Tua say, oh, that it was, so-and-so ran the wrong route. So that's why that happened. Because apparently, and I've heard not only from Omar Kelly, but Alan Poupart, who's also very critical of Tua. So if Alan Poupart is saying this, then you might want to be like, that's interesting. That interception to Jalen Waddle, apparently he underran the route, and Tua was expecting him to be over the top, and that's why he threw it where he threw it. We'll break down the all 22, and we'll see what we see. But if Alan Poupart, which, again, if I'm butchering your last name, I apologize, points that out, and he believes that if you follow them, again, go subscribe to their channel, you know how critical he is of Tua. That's very interesting to me. But I also think I appreciate how he's not like, hey, we won, on to the next one. He's like, I need to be better. I have an expectation for myself. I have a standard that I need to keep myself at. And if we're going to win, it needs to be complimentary football. And he even said the defense carried them. 100% in the second half, the defense carried them. They scored, 14 points in the first half? They didn't score a touchdown in the second half. That's not acceptable. And some people get on me, and some people on Twitter were upset with me saying that type of stuff. It's one game. It's rust coming out of the bye. If Tua has that standard, we should have that standard as well. But let me give you some Devon Achane updates. So, this is from Michael David Smith of Pro Football Talk. He said Dolphins running back Devon Achane returned from injured reserve today, but managed just one carry for 1 yard before exiting the game with an injury to the same knee that he was kept out for the last month. Fortunately, the injury appeared to be minor, which is good to hear. Miami Dolphins head coach said after the game that Achane felt good enough that he was asking to keep playing, but the coach and staff decided to keep him out as a precaution. He kind of got landed on. It was a little painful, and we weren't. He was politicking to try to come back in, but I was a little worried off the rust to go and do that, McDaniel said. We kind of held him back. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow. McDaniel said that because the injury was the same knee Achane hurt once already, it was best to not take a chance. Someone landed on the same knee, so that kind of stuff we just didn't want to mess with. We had the positive feedback from the training staff at the end of the second quarter and after halftime, but I didn't feel like at that point that would have been fair to him. The Dolphins are a short week and we face the Jets. So, again, essentially, he could have went back in, but they were like, listen, it was the same knee that you hurt. Let's not rush you back out there and possibly re-hit it again and re-hurt it even more. Take a break. We'll see how you do this week, and we'll have you for the Jets game. And hopefully they have him and Jeff Wilson. For the life of me, I don't know why Jeff Wilson was not active. So at one point when Savon Ahmed went down, we just had Raheem Mostert. Because Brooks is on IR. Jeff Wilson was inactive. Then Achane got hurt, and then it was just Raheem Mostert. And I'm not one to say I told you so, but back in the offseason when we had the possibility of getting Dalvin Cook, and a lot of people were like, why do you want to get Dalvin Cook? We have a talented backfield. You don't know what you're talking about. This is the reason why. I never thought we didn't have a talented backfield. I just wanted depth. I wanted talented depth. And to me, and I still think that if the Dolphins got Dalvin Cook, it would have been a very good rotation where if these injuries did happen, we still have Raheem Mostert and Dalvin out there. But that's just me. He made his decision to take the money, and he is probably wishing he didn't. But that's that. A little tidbits of notes and information that I found very interesting, especially hearing it from Omar Kelly. So after the game, he said he was in the locker room, and he was listening to Jalen Ramsey and Jalen Phillips have a conversation. Because Jalen Ramsey was trying to figure out if he had 2 sacks on the day, if he had 1.5 sacks. And Ramsey said to him, essentially, have you ever won Defensive Player of the Week? And he said, no. And he's like, well, you're going to win it this week. And Omar Kelly thought it was funny because Ramsey essentially clinched the game for us with that last interception. And he had 2 interceptions on the day. But Phillips, 2 sacks and an interception. I love how he's coming along. I love how the defense is coming along. And it seems like they're starting to buy in what Fangio is giving them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing with McDaniel, but McDaniel is not such a hard veteran coordinator, whereas McDaniel's like, trust me, blah, blah, blah. And Fangio's like, just do what I tell you to do. And all of a sudden it's starting to work. And he's like, and that's why I tell you to do it. It's like a different attitude. But I also hear that he is also, working with them more and kind of doing what they want, not just what he wants. And it's working. What we had, the defense gave up 14 against the Chiefs. We gave up 17 against the Patriots. And we just gave up 16 to the Raiders. 13 to the Raiders. This defense is coming along. Omar Kelly also said that Teron Armstead was talking in the locker room, and a lot of them were asking him, like, on these short yardage situations, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, all that stuff, why does he think that they throw it and they don't run it so much? And he said, Teron Armstead said that he thinks that because early on in the season, the offensive line kind of failed them when it came to running the ball in those short downage situations, is that they need to, build Mike McDaniel's confidence that he can trust them to get those short yardage situations with the offensive line. And I find that interesting that, these guys understand that, we need to do better, and they want to do it for the coach. That's a great connection, right? And we'll probably hear more about this Tuesday on Hard Knocks. And again, after that, I will give you guys the video where I recap it. But I find that super interesting that they want to work for, they want to do it for McDaniel. I need to prove so he can trust me. And it's the same way around. McDaniel's like, I need to show them so they can trust me. It's that connection with the players and the coaches, why also the Dolphins are sitting at 7-3 right now. Another interesting little tidbit there. Fangio is 22-9 against rookie quarterbacks. We face another one in Will Levis. I don't know who we will face on Friday because is it Trevor Siemian? Is it Boyle? Is it Zach Wilson? I don't know who we're going to face on Friday. But also Sam Howell. I don't think he's a second-year guy, so I don't know if Fangio can get in his head, but maybe he can get in his head. And the last statistic I want to give you is over the last 30 games played with Tua Tagovailoa as the starter, the Miami Dolphins are 21-9. Overall, yesterday's game, I'm not going to, beat this to death, but the offense needs to just make some adjustments here and there. They need to figure it out. Also, it would help drastically if Robert Hunt can play on Friday, because we're still going, regardless that the Bills dropped a big old 30-something on them, you're still going up against a really good defensive line. So if we can get Robert Hunt out there, I'd feel more comfortable than having Liam Eichenberg out there. But they just need to go back into the playbook and do their things, look at the film, and just tweak things here and there. And maybe not focus on Tyreek so much, and maybe try to spread the ball out a little bit more, because if you notice when Tyreek wasn't in there, Jalen Waddle started getting a lot of the connections because, he also has the ability to get open. We'll look at the film and see what we're missing and all that stuff, but the team is going in the right direction. We're 7-3. The defense is now a top 15 defense. The offense is number 1 still. start to marry those together. We need the offense to start scoring 20-plus points a game, and we need the defense to keep holding opponents to under 17 points a game. And this Dolphin team is going to be incredibly dangerous. But that's what I got for you guys today. Like I said, tomorrow you get a film breakdown and the power rankings, and tomorrow night, probably around like 10 o'clock, 10:30, you're going to get the recap of the Hard Knocks. Then Wednesday, you're going to get the preview video, and you're going to get the picks video. And then Thursday, you're going to get a special Thanksgiving video. I got a lot planned for you guys. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. I got a ton of content this week coming out for you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow. But like usual, stay classy. My friends out.